Everyone, welcome back to Learner's World. Today's topic is major historical events for the United States. This video is just going to cover a handful of these events, and for the events that are covered, it's just going to be the basics of the events. So let's get started. To start off with, we have the 13 colonies. The 13 colonies are Virginia, Massachusetts, New Hampshire, Maryland, Connecticut, Rhode Island, Delaware, North and South Carolina, New Jersey, New York, Pennsylvania, and Georgia. Virginia was founded in 1607 by the London Company. The Puritans founded 2 Massachusetts colonies, the first one being Plymouth in 1620, and the second being Massachusetts Bay Colony in 1630. John Mason founded New Hampshire in 1623. Lord Baltimore in 1634 founded Maryland. Thomas Hooker, a year later, founded Connecticut in 1635. Roger Williams founded Rhode Island in 1636. Then in 1638, Peter Minuit and the New Sweden Company founded Delaware. In 1653, the Virginians founded North Carolina. 10 years later, in 1663, the 8 nobles, with a royal charter from King Charles II, founded South Carolina. In 1664, New Jersey was founded by Sir George Carteret and Lord Berkeley, and in the same year, New York was founded by the Duke of York. William Penn founded Pennsylvania, which was nicknamed Penn's Woods, in 1682, and James Edward Oglethorpe founded Georgia in 1732. Next up, we have triangular trade. This was a trade between the New World, England, and Africa between the 16th and 19th centuries. From England, manufactured products such as metal and alcoholic beverages were sent to Africa. From Africa, enslaved people were sent to the Americas, and from the New World, raw materials like cotton and molasses were sent to England. It is considered to be a part of Western colonialism, and triangular trade is also known as the transatlantic slave trade. Quick vocab moment. So Western colonialism is when European nations explored, conquered, and settled areas of the world and exploited the resources. Next up, we have the Revolutionary War. It is also known as the American Revolution. Skirmishes in Lexington and Concord started off the armed conflict in April of 1775. By 1778, the colonists had France join their side in the skirmish. Building up to the Revolutionary War, Britain was raising revenue via taxes to the colonies. April 18, 1775, British troops marched to Concord while some Patriot riders, most notably Paul Revere, rode ahead to sound the alarm. September 3rd of 1783 brought an end to the Revolutionary War with the Treaty of Paris. Next up, we have Washington becoming president. The first presidential election took place in 1789. With 69 electoral votes, George Washington was unanimously elected president. He's been the only one who has been unanimously elected president. George Washington's cabinet only had 4 members, Secretary of State being Thomas Jefferson, Edmund Randolph as Attorney General, Alexander Hamilton as the Secretary of Treasury, and Henry Knox as Secretary of War. Declaration of Independence. This was adopted July 4th, 1776, and officially began getting signed August 2nd, 1776. Thomas Jefferson supervised the committee that drafted the Declaration of Independence. The committee was made up of Thomas Jefferson, John Adams, Robert Livingston, Roger Sherman, and Benjamin Franklin. The Constitution. The Constitution was written during the summer of 1787. It was officially signed September 17, 1787. Originally, the convention which drafted the Constitution met to revise the Articles of Confederation. Some of the issues discussed how representatives should be elected, how many representatives should represent the states, and how much power the central government should receive. Next up, the Whiskey Rebellion. In 1971, a new tax on spirits was approved by Congress. The tax was created by Alexander Hamilton to pay off the debt of the American Revolution. By July 16, 1974, violence had started. There were 400 rioters that began to harass tax collectors. August 1st, 1794, rebels met at Braddock's Field to discuss their next actions. October 16th, 1794, Washington gathered militia members from Pennsylvania, New Jersey, Maryland, and Virginia in an attempt to settle the issue, and by November 19th, 1794, 150 men were arrested by the army. The Emancipation Proclamation. This was issued by Lincoln on January 1st, 1863. This was issued around the entrance of the United States' third year of the American Civil War. Originally, slaves in the Confederacy were affected by the Emancipation Proclamation. Though it may have been presented as a measure for the military, it would change the struggle from just saving the Union to ending slavery. The Louisiana Purchase. Participants in this purchase were the United States and France. Due to the 828,000 square miles of land in the purchase, the land owned by the United States had doubled. While a treaty was signed on May 2nd, 1803, though the treaty had been antedated to April 30th, 1803, between the outright payment claims of the citizens against France and interest payment for the final settlement, the U.S. paid France a total of $42,267,622 for the purchase of the Louisiana Territory. The Louisiana Purchase was the first major cession during the expansion of the United States westward. Another quick vocab moment. So cession is the formal giving up of rights, property, or territory by a state, and antedated is to come before in date. The War of 1812. The causes include Britain began to interfere with the trade dealings of the U.S., and Britain also began to encroach on maritime rights of the U.S. A byproduct of a conflict was being the Napoleonic Wars, which was going on at the time between Britain and France. Early in the War of 1812, the U.S. won several single-ship duels by sea with Britain. The Battle of New Orleans. The greatest victory won by the U.S. during the War of 1812 was the Battle of New Orleans. It kept the British from gaining control of a critical port in the U.S. It was a triumph led by Andrew Jackson for the American Army and Major General Sir Edward Pakenham for the British Army. The British attack began January 8th, 1815, and withdrew January 18th of 1815. The Monroe Doctrine. This was a message included in President James Monroe's 7th annual letter, which he sent to Congress. It has become the best-known policy in the U.S. regarding the Western Hemisphere. Monroe stated that no further colonization would be tolerated by European powers, nor would the U.S. want to deal with being ruled by monarchs again. The Monroe Doctrine was articulated December 2nd, 1823. The Era of the Common Man, also referred to as the Age of Common Man and the Age of Jackson. During this time, the United States saw an extension of democracy to almost all white men. During this time period, there was a mass relocation of Native American tribes from their homelands. The Era of the Common Man was between the late 1820s and the mid-1830s. The Treaty of Guadalupe Hidalgo. It was signed on February 2nd, 1848, which brought an end to the Mexican-American War. Mexico ceded territory to the U.S., which became the states of Utah, California, Nevada, New Mexico, and parts of Arizona, Colorado, Oklahoma, Kansas, and Wyoming. Nicholas Trist negotiated the treaty with the Mexican delegation and sent a copy to Washington, which President Polk handed off to the Senate. When the Senate ratified the treaty on March 10th, 1848, Article 10 was removed, which had guaranteed Mexican land grants. The Dred Scott decision. In 1857, the court case of Dred Scott v. Sanford took place over the issue of enslaved people not being considered citizens. In the St. Louis Circuit Court in 1846, Dred Scott, along with his wife, sued for their freedom. Because they were living in Fort Snelling in Wisconsin, which was a free territory, this claim was able to be established on the grounds that they were held in bondage for extended periods of time. This case took 11 years. On March 6, 1857, Chief Justice Roger B. Taney read a majority opinion stating that enslaved people weren't exactly U.S. citizens, so protection could not be expected for them. The American Civil War. It was a 4-year war between the northern and southern United States spanning from 1861 to 1865. The states that seceded are South Carolina, Mississippi, Texas, North Carolina, Tennessee, Florida, Alabama, Virginia, Arkansas, Louisiana, and Georgia. After the secession, there were 23 states still in the Union. Jefferson Davis was the president for the Confederacy, while Abraham Lincoln was the president of the Union. In 1861, the First Battle of Bull Run takes place, and the Second Battle of Bull Run took place in 1862. So the Battle of Gettysburg, this lasted from July 1st to July 3rd, 1863. The estimated casualties are over 50,000. It ended as a Union victory by 4 p.m. on July 1st, 1863. General Winfield Scott Hancock was examining the situation and deciding whether to drop back to positions along Pipe Creek. By July 2nd, 1863, General George Meade's troops occupied positions along Cemetery Ridge, Culp's Hill, and Cemetery Hill. July 3rd, 1863, Lee's forces took advantage of the rain to retreat to Virginia. Battle of Little Bighorn. This battle was fought along Little Bighorn River in south-central Montana. The battle was fought June 25th and 26th of 1876. The battle was fought between the 7th Regiment of the U.S. Cavalry, the Lakota Sioux, the Arapaho tribes, and the Northern Cheyenne. After 2 years of fighting from 1865 to 1867, some Lakota agreed to sign the Treaty of Laramie in 1868. Lieutenant Colonel George A. Custer had led the American forces while Sitting Bull led the Northern Plain Indians. There were 50 known deaths from Sitting Bull's people, though Custer and those who were immediately under his command had been slain. The Haymarket Affair. It also is known by the names of the Haymarket Incident, Haymarket Riot, Haymarket Massacre, and Haymarket Square Riot. This took place May 4th, 1886. It was the aftermath of a bombing at Haymarket Square in Chicago, Illinois. 8 anarchists ended up being charged for the bombing. One of them got a 15-year prison sentence, and the other 7 got sentenced to death. World War I, also called the Great War. This began in the year 1914 with the assassination of Austria's Archduke Franz Ferdinand. World War I was a 4-year war fought between the Central Powers and the Allied Powers. The Central Powers included Austria-Hungary, Bulgaria, the Ottoman Empire, and Germany. The Allied Powers included the U.S., Canada, Romania, Great Britain, Japan, Italy, Russia, and France. By the end of the war, 16 million people, civilians and soldiers combined, had died. And finally, we have World War II. This involved the Axis powers and the Allies. The Axis powers were Italy, Japan, and Germany. The Allies were the U.S., France, the Soviet Union, Great Britain, and China to a lesser extent. There were between 40 million and 50 million deaths during World War II, and it lasted from 1939 to 1945. The Holocaust was a major event that took place during World War II, which was a mass genocide of 6 million European Jews. Okay, so that's all I have for today. Thanks for watching. If there's a topic you want to see in a future video, leave a comment in the comment section below, and don't forget to leave a like. Have a great day.